With the onset of spooky season, I thought I'd give my personal list of boogeymen in the Commander and Historic Brawl formats.
Stogie Boogie says there's trouble close at hand.
These are commanders that when I see them across the table from me, I get a little anxious and I'm probably going to be sweating bullets, much like the protagonist in a horror film. In no particular order, these are my boogeymen of the formats. Let's start by taking a look at one of the newer levels of scary with Toxrill the Corrosive. For 5 black, you get a 7/7 slug horror that says at the beginning of each end step, put a slime counter on each creature you don't control. Creatures you don't control get -1/-1 for each slime counter on them, and whenever a creature you don't control with a slime counter on it dies, create a 1/1 black slug creature token. This commander is painful to see in a pod, especially if you're relying upon creatures to do anything in your deck. Toxrill simply shuts down token decks, and if you need your commander to win, you better hope you can live long enough to do anything. Otherwise, your game is going to be a nightmare, with little hope of waking up until Toxrill is done chewing up your board and claims victory. Next up on my list of boogeymen is Corvold, fae-cursed king. For 2 black, green, you get a Dragon Noble 4/4 flyer that says whenever it enters the battlefield, sacrifice another permanent. Whenever you sacrifice a permanent, put a counter on Corvold and draw a card. This is another commander that's scary to see across the board. It's so unassuming when you see it in action because it's just a 4/4 for 5, but that stat line is nothing without the rest of the card where it has the triggers on sacrificing, where it goes from meh to holy shit, that's broken. First, he's not really a 4/4 because you have to sacrifice something right as it comes into play. So he's actually a 5/5 for 5. And then the icing here is every permanent you sacrifice, regardless of how it's sacrificed, you get to draw a card as well as grow Corvold. And in Jund colors, sacrificial abilities and fodder are not hard to come by. So it's really easy for him to reach immense size very fast, filling out your opponent's hand with fuel as things are going up, and as they bulk him up, he's going to come at you really quick and commander damage you out of the game.
21.
Another nightmare to enter the commander fray is Miirym Sentinelworm. For 3 green, blue, red, you get a 6/6 dragon spirit with flying and ward 2 that says whenever another non-token dragon enters the battlefield under your control, create a token copy of it, except the token is not legendary if the dragon is legendary. Anyone who's played against this monstrosity knows how scary it can be across the table. Even with how high its mana cost is, the ramp available in Commander can get this thing online as early as turn 2 with a nut draw. And with ward 2 on it, it's not going to go away quickly if you get it out that fast. And by the time you can actually deal with it, you're going to have your opponent with several clone copies of dragons, and you're going to be facing a board full of threats that are hard to deal with unless you have a board wipe right away and they're not sitting on a counter. This next card is literally a horror that they entered into the game with Crick, Son of Yawgmoth. For 5 triple black, which are Phyrexian black, you get a Phyrexian horror minion, a 2/2 that has lifelink. And for each black and a cost, you can pay 2 life rather than pay the mana cost. And whenever you cast a black spell, put a +1/+1 counter on Crick, Son of Yawgmoth. Hey Wizard, you know what's really scary in Magic? Phyrexian mana. What did you do? You printed the ultimate Phyrexian mana commander that grants Phyrexian mana to any black spell or black mana spend ability. And it can be cast with Phyrexian mana as well, in a format with 40 life.
Are you crazy?
Coupling Crick with things like Aetherflux Reservoir, Grey Merchant of Asphodel, and other ways to gain back to life that your opponent is spending to chain their spells together, Crick is going to just blow you out of the water so fast. It is a good example of why Phyrexian mana is one of the most busted abilities ever printed into the game, and it's even scarier thanks to the double life total that we have in Commander to use as a resource. Another of the more recent additions to this horror menagerie of mine is Prosper Tome-bound. For 2 black, red, you get a Tiefling Warlock, a 1/4 with Death Touch, that says at the beginning of your end step, exile the top card of your library until the end of your next turn you can play the card, and whenever you play a card from exile, create a treasure token. Here's my advice. You see Prosper across the table from you, you need to get in touch with your inner Jason Voorhees and cut this thing down.
God, you scared the shit out of me, bro.
Prosper starts getting your opponent's card advantage, and once the treasures start flowing, you're going to regret not killing Prosper as quickly as possible. The last card I have on my list of Boogiemen is Baral, Chief of Compliance. For 1 and a blue, you get a human wizard, a 1/3, that says instant and sorcery spells that you cast cost 1 less to cast, and whenever a spell or ability you control counters a spell, you may draw a card. If you do, discard a card. How many of you out there enjoy having your spells countered? Yeah, I didn't think so. Nothing brings the salt out of me more than an opponent playing counterspell.deck and countering everything that I try to do. Baral makes this kind of strategy not only super annoying to play against, but flat out frightening because every single counter also has a cantrip attached to it. And so that just keeps fueling their hand and feeding them more counter magic. This guy got banned in the original iteration of 60 card Brawl for a reason, and he's not any less scary in Commander, and he's miserable to play against. This is my list of the Boogeymen in Commander and sometimes in Historic Brawl. What are your Boogeymen that you don't like in the format? What scares you whenever you see it sitting across the table? Let me know in the comments below. And as always, thank you for watching and have a great day.